Hello, FlossTube, and welcome to Fairy Tales and French Knots, episode 12. I'm Erin, your host, and this is my channel about cross-stitch, where I talk long enough to make my family wonder what I'm up to, but short enough to watch on your lunch break. So it's been a month since I popped on here, and if you're still watching, thank you. If you're a new visitor, thank you as well. And please keep checking in, because obviously my channel requires very little emotional investment. So, I guess I should start with what I've been up to for the past month. And I have a lot of finishes. So, I'm going to start with a little piece that I showed last time around, I think. It's a spring piece, actually called Spring Bunny by Oxleone Needleworks, which unfortunately is a Russian Etsy site. So the pattern is currently not available, and I don't know of any way you can get it. But here is my Spring Bunny, completely framed by me, nothing too fancy, just a little white frame. And my mother actually found the little hat in her thrift store adventures, so she sent me that in a package. I have it hanging on a little straight pin there. So the little bunny is stitched on blueberry fabric, and I swapped out a lot of the flosses. I know the orange is not the called for one, neither is the green, but I also left off a top border too, just so he would fit in the frame that I had. But I think he's absolutely adorable, regardless of where the designer is located. She's kind of at the mercy of larger events in the world. So I still love that design. The other thing I showed several times in the past several videos is the Moon Day sampler from Vanessa Ann's Holidays in Cross Stitch 1989, going back into the oldies. This one I actually had framed by my framer, Shabella Framing in Binghamton, New York. Jeff, who owns it, is an absolutely wonderful guy to work with. And this is what he and I came up with. The frame is a kind of metallic blue that catches the colors, the clouds across the moon in those first three squares. And then there's a bronze copper fillet that almost exactly matches those borders of the moon squares, which I believe is one of the DMC oranges. So we looked at all different colors of frames and matting, and when we hit on this, we just knew that it was perfect, and I couldn't be happier with what he came up with. So there it is. It now hangs over my sewing machine to remind me that I always stay up too late stitching when the moon is out. So that was my really big special finish. I also finished, I started going through my drawers of assorted stash and, stuff I'd forgotten I had. And one of the things I found was this little pillow, which was about 2/3 of the way done. It's a Pine Mountain design, Liberty for All. I believe it's all DMC flosses. It didn't give keys, color key. It just was kind of a work from the color pattern and figure it out. And the pillow was included too. So he's all done. And with the stitching for Ukraine that's been going on, I downloaded several patterns from Stitchy Princess on Etsy. And one of her samplers that I really, really loved is called, I think it's Spring Folktale Motifs or something. And I took the princess, who is technically a Russian princess, I know, but I stitched her, and instead of being stitched in green, the way it was charted, I switched it to blue and yellow, and I took one of the sunflowers, added it to the base, so now she's a Ukrainian princess. The finish itself is a stand-up, which I did with some fabric from my stash, this little aqua gingham here. and I actually did the finishing my own way, and then afterwards discovered that it's pretty much Vanna's way from Twisted Stitcher. So I will link Vanna's tutorial below. I will say I didn't start with hers. It was after I finished and I went, I wonder if there was an easier way to do some of that. And honestly, the only thing I think I did differently is I didn't stitch my bottom cording on. I glued everything. I did stitch this onto the top. This was a bit of ribbon that my mother put on my daughter's birthday present. So in my family, if you can reuse it, all the better. So that's all been repurposed. The one thing I will say, if you decide to do a stand-up for this or any other design, I don't have the setup to videotape finishing, but the one thing I noticed as I was working is that the more fiber fill you put in, the better. I almost considered using my crushed walnut shells to see if that would help, but I decided that would make it too flip-floppy. So lots of stuffing was the trick. And then my last finish, and I have to blame Pam and Steph over at Just Keep Stitching for this, when they talked about Twin Peak Primitive's big sale that was going on for the past 2 weeks. I think it's over now because they've filmed a new video and picked a new pattern of the week. But I picked up the old tea shop from Twin Peak Primitives. I started it and I finished it. And there is the Old Witch's Coffee Shop. I mounted it in I've got a bunch of these little plywood frame things from, I think it was Walmart, like a 3-pack for $6. And the pattern itself is stitched with Ship's Manor ganache dyed fabric, or dyed floss. And I did change the pattern because that's what I do. The pattern has a broom at the bottom, but I had this broom, which is actually a finding from the scrapbook section at the craft store. And I thought it looked better to have wide at the top and wide at the bottom instead of a whole pyramid look going on. So I stitched it to the top and finished it all up. Had a little hanger. Super cute. And super nice, clear pattern for stitching. I gotta recommend Twin Peak if you're looking for some more PDF things to buy on Etsy. And of course, having been gone for, a month, I have acquired stash. First of all, I started looking for different framing and finishing options because my mother did ask me to do craft shows again with her this spring. So she will have succulents and ivy planted in teacups that she gets at thrift stores, and I'll have smaller finished needlework pieces and some of my jewelry boxes and things like that. So actually the Liberty pillow, that's probably going to go to the craft sale because it's not really my thing. I have a jewelry box with a flag on it, so I'm kind of thinking as I plan stitching projects, especially smalls for the next month or two, how can I best display them and possibly sell them? So long story there to explain where some of this stuff came from. So back in early March, I'm also in charge of doing displays for the college library where I work. And I started a women's history display, and I needed some kind of ephemera other than book covers, because to me, a display needs, changes in height, changes in texture, different kinds of things to catch people's eye. So I went to the antique store because that's where I go. And I was thinking that there would have to be some kind of, I don't know, figurine or something that I could put in a display case with some books. What I did find were a bunch of the old photographers' marketing cards, which were, they're kind of printed on heavier cardstock, and they would be the things that the photography studios would send out to try and get more clients. So I got a couple of those for $1 a piece, and then I found this. which is this cute little picture frame. I have no clue who these people are. Sorry. But I'm going to take their picture out, and I was thinking a little prairie schooler possibly would fit in here nicely. The little complimentary cards that would come with their larger patterns, the little note or index card sized patterns. So I was thinking I'd do that. So that's one piece of stash. And then I was at a different thrift store because, again, that's what I do. And I found this, which is one of the line of frames from Kohl's. I know a couple years ago, everybody was buying the sleds and putting stitching in the sleds. Well, this was from the same line, and I just thought it would be perfect for a little Just Nan Christmas round of some sort, maybe something from the Just Cross Stitch Christmas editions. I have to look through, but the frame was $1, so why not? So there's that. I did pick up a few new patterns. I picked up a couple from Nashville, from the Nashville market, but they're not here yet. So I can't show those off. But I did get these mostly on the stash groups on Facebook. One of them is Country Cottage Needleworks Forest Snowfall, which I did the Moon and Stars piece. I can't remember the exact title, but I thought this would look really cute next to that. I picked up Summerhouse Stitchworks Memphis Lily. So if I can get that to show. There we go. And my plan there, actually this would be one of my craft show pieces, is to mount it on top of this little shaker box. I think this was one of those 99-cent finds at Michael's. And then my last pattern stash is Homespun Elegance did a whole series called the Heartfelt Samplers, I think, which were all very small, like 4x6, 3x5-ish sized patterns. I did the one for my sister, or the sister's one. I have the Marriage and When This You See, Remember Me ones. And then I picked up this one, which is My Friend. And I just think they're sweet. They also work really well on the top of some of those jewelry boxes, and they're quick little stitches. So I have that. So those are my patterns. And then I was looking at my scissors, and it seems like I'm always trying to track down a pair of scissors. I'm sure that's a lot of us, right? And I do have, in some of my bigger projects, I have a pair of Gingers, mostly the limited edition ones that Joanne used to carry. I have 3 or 4 pairs of those, and they're all packaged safely away. And I decided I wanted something nice, but not Gingers. I don't need more Gingers for just on my work table. And I found these on Amazon for like 10 or 11 bucks, and I fell in love with them. They're so pretty. Little swan scissors. There's their little heads, and they come with a beautiful purple tassel fob. It's a Celtic knotwork purple thing. I mean, 2 things I love, purple and Celtic. So I had to have that. Had to. So that's my stash. I also, according to my PayPal log, bought a piece of R&R Reproductions antique hydrangea, 30 count linen, and I know I had a plan for it, and now I can't find it. I hate when that happens, don't you? It doesn't happen to me that often, and I think it's been this like never-ending winter. Like right now, it is the end of March, and it is barely 20 degrees. In fact, at this point in the night, because it's late, it's Monday night, it's probably after or under 20 degrees. That's just wrong. And when that happens, sometimes I go shopping. And then when the things come in, I think, ooh, I should not have bought this. And I quickly tuck it in a drawer someplace. And then I can't find it. So obviously, when I get in those kinds of moods, I do stitch, though, because I've got all these finishes that I hadn't even started the last time I talked to you all in some cases. The Ukrainian Princess and the Old Tea Shop were completely started, finished, and completely finished in about a month. So, I get on a bender and just keep going. My current whip, and this is funny, I found this in the same place that I found the little Liberty for All pillow kit started. This was a kit from Walmart back in a long time ago. I bought it at some point, probably when my daughter was very small, and I thought kits were going to be much easier. It's one of their Ready Set Stitch kits. And the pattern is by Sandra Cozzolino, who does a whole lot of like hearts and flowers kinds of stuff. And I did swap out the included linen in this, or Ada in this, for a piece of linen or even weave. And it's one of those live, love, laugh pieces. So it says, live simply, love truly, laugh freely. And I've started calling it my live, love, barf piece, because those kinds of sayings just aren't my thing. But I can't throw this away when it's this close to done. There's a couple little flowers that need to be done, and I think I could finish it as a pillow and sell it at a craft sale, right? Because I don't want that in my house. It's not my thing. If that is your thing, that's great and cool, and I'm happy for you. But much like I don't usually stitch Bible verses and religious stuff, I don't typically stitch the kind of cheesy inspirational stuff either. Some inspirational stuff I love, but not this. Pink and nope. But what's funny is, as I say how much I don't like these flowers and hearts and things, it's time for I'd Frame It If I Could. And this week for I'd Frame It If I Could, I'm picking a piece that I stitched right after my husband and I moved from Erie, Pennsylvania. And it was one of the first pieces that I stitched in our new apartment, which means absolutely nothing in the larger scheme of things. But it is by Lavender Wings, and it's a little piece called Lilacs. And it could have been finished as a needle roll or pillow, but I really want it framed. And part of the reason for that is because the house where I grew up had lilac bushes, and that was always kind of the spring has arrived kind of scent. You'd smell the lilacs in the backyard. So this is the pattern. Lavender Wings. Ooh, come here. There he is. And there you can see they've got a framed one, and then they've got the needle roll. And here is mine. Obviously it needs to be stretched and pressed or whatever. It's stitched on some fabric, I want to say from Kiwi Illusions, but I can't find the center of my screen. The thing about it that was both frustrating and made me incredibly proud of myself is that all of those bunches of lilacs are French knots. Tons of little purple and pink French knots. And they came out so nicely. So that is this week's I'd Frame It If I Could. It would be very small, and I don't know, someday, right? So that's what I've been up to for the past month, and I've actually talked a little bit longer than normal today, maybe because I had so much that I've finished. Happy stitching, everybody, and check back in again later. Bye.